Hello, everyone, and welcome to this extraordinary episode of the Real Estate Critic Eye for CRS Italy. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Gaetano Mortati from Miami. And he will talk to us about how to get financing as a real estate buyer, as a foreign real estate buyer, how to get financing when buying a property in Italy. And Juri Ceccon, one of my fellow CRS agents, that we are both in Italy, trying to navigate the system and the needs of our international clients when we speak about financing a property. My name is Armando Sacco. I am based in Rome. I am a CRS designee for some time now. Juri, 2 words about yourself, and then we'll introduce our guest.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Juri Ceccon. I live and work in Treviso, near Venice, between the Dolomite Mountain. And I'm a membership of CRS Real Estate. It's a pleasure to meet Gaetano Mortati and you, Gaetano.
Gaetano, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Gaetano Mortati. I'm the founder and CEO of Buy Italy Mortgages, an American-based company out of Miami, Florida. We are a sister company of Fai Credito, which is an Italian credit company with my partner, Alberto Signorini.
Awesome. So today we will do a deep dive into what does it mean to buy in Italy when you need a mortgage. Based on my experience, usually, and actually we do have this issue, like everybody says, if you're a foreigner and you're not having any income in Italy or in the United Europe, you basically will not be able to get any financing. So knowing Gaetano, I know this is changing as he's changed our point of view, because this is possible. And I would want for Juri to start with his first question.
Yes, because I met a lot abroad client, but especially I don't know this is possible. They have a mortgage when they buy a property in Italy, but it's a big chance for our to propose this possibility. Gaetano?
Yes, what Armando said is actually true. Very, very difficult for a non-resident foreign national to get credit or financing through an Italian banking institution to buy property in Italy. There's only, I want to say, 3, maximum 4 banks throughout all of Italy that will do that type of credit for non-residents. The reason why we are successful is because my partner, Alberto Signorini, with Fai Credito, has been doing mortgages for the American military community throughout Italy for the last 15 years. So by establishing this rapport with those banks, we were able to open the market also for Americans and foreigners coming from outside of Italy and not already being here with a work with the government affiliation or military affiliation. So that's how the doors will open in that particular sector.
So that is interesting, because so basically you started off with some niche customers and clients, basically employed by the government, so a really
Correct.
solid institution. And now you discovered that we could actually open up our doors to other kind of customers. Just tell us a little bit more about what would it take for a foreign buyer to have a mortgage in Italy when it comes to, like, the questions we get a lot is, like, how much would they lend? What is the LTV, the loan to value, that they have to keep in mind?
Sure. Like I was saying, the American military community here in Italy is very big, going from northern Italy, from Aviano Air Force Base all the way down to Sigonella, Sicily. For those personnel, military, government affiliated, civilian, or even consulate or U.S. embassy, we can provide mortgage with the Italian banking institution at 80% LTV. So 80% loan to value on the price of the property, okay? Any other U.S. citizen, Canada, UK, foreign national that is buying property in Italy, the LTV is set at 50%. So 50% of the actual price of the property can be mortgaged through the Italian bank. There are instances where, according to the bank, viewing the customers and clients' credit and other factors, they might increase that up to 60% LTV. However, I don't like to say that because that is not a guarantee. 50% sure, but if we can get 60% and the bank is willing to do that, we will accept that. If the client wants 60, we'll take the 60%.
And just as a rule of thumb, what would be the maximum debt that you would allow, let's say, when compared to their income? Is there a percentage, or it changes based on the customer?
No, it's a very interesting question, because the debt to income ratio calculation is calculated on the existing debts that the client may have, for example, in America, i.e., a mortgage payment, a car payment, a loan repayment, a credit card payment. Those debts combined with what the mortgage payment would be in Italy together cannot go over the 30% debt to income ratio.
Okay. So slowly we're putting little pieces of the puzzle together.
Yes.
Do you have a question, Juri?
Yeah. How many time for the due diligence when you before a mortgage need a mortgage?
Well, the timeline to get a mortgage in Italy varies. However, if the client gives us all the documentation needed for the bank, and we are able to get the packet complete and turned into the bank from when we give it to the bank, usually between 6 to 8 weeks, we get a mortgage approval.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's good, because often we do a preliminary contract is suspended by the mortgage in Italy. It's possible to have a mortgage after the sign the preliminary.
Right.
It's a good. It's a good.
Yeah,
choice.
we would say on average, to be on the safe side, 2 months. Just to be safe. But that is a time frame that's acceptable. We have had mortgages approved within 30 days.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So it's basically depending on, this is starting from when all the documents are filed in and the application is made. Now, do you have the possibility of giving your clients like a pre-qualification for the mortgage?
So Italy, Italian banks do not have a pre-mortgage pre-qualification like you do in America. In the United States, it's a different system. You provide your finances, you provide your income and your credit score, and the bank says, hey, we can approve you up to $1 million. And now you can go look for a house for up to $1 million. In Italy, it's reverse. In Italy, they say, we will provide you with a mortgage opportunity once you have signed a proposal for a property.
Okay.
So until you sign the proposal that you want to purchase the property, and hence the reason why the proposta di acquisto, the proposal of purchase, has to be linked to you obtaining a mortgage with the Italian bank, because unless you have that proposal, the bank cannot initiate a mortgage application.
So it's part of the application providing an offer to purchase, and it's okay if it is contingent upon the obtaining the mortgage.
Correct.
So that is my understanding.
Correct.
And the time frame that you have dictated is basically a standard as per the Italian institutions. Now, one practical question that comes to my mind is, who takes care of all of the translations needed for filing the application? Let's say you got an American or a Canadian client that will give you their credit score all the documents that you would want to collect. Obviously, they're all in English or French when it comes to Canada sometimes, or Spanish if it's a Mexican. So who takes care of the language barrier in this?
Okay, well, that's very interesting. We actually are a service company, and we follow the client from A to Z. So we pretty much do everything. Also, language barrier-wise, we have associates that speak different languages. I'm an American by birth, so my English, I'm already halfway there. Excuse me. So, the language is not really an issue for us to be able to do. One of the good things that we are able to provide the client, which is almost unheard of, is we are able to do the processing of the mortgage and bank application and everything without the client coming from the United States or from a foreign country all the way to Italy to sign documents. Okay, amazing. We don't need that. We do it for them as their power of attorney. And pretty much do everything. The only time the client is actually required in person here in Italy is when they actually go to the rogito and they go to sign for the property with the notary. Then they have to be there in person. And even then, we are there in person to represent them as the procuratore, because they cannot sign the documents, the atto notarile, in the Italian language. By Italian law, they have to have somebody that speaks the language, the dual language. So I become the procuratore for the client that is doing the mortgage and purchasing the property, and sign the atto and the acquisto of the notaio. I sign that for the clients.
Okay, so you take care also of the POA, the authorizations, the apostille, the translation. That's amazing. That's what
the only thing we don't do unless the client asks us is sometimes, not always, but sometimes the bank asks for the tax return or the bank statement to be translated in Italian, and then with apostille, to have an apostille.
Yes.
In that case, there with the apostille, they have to do it from the area where they're from in the United States, or England, UK. Yes,
the nearest consulate office.
Yeah, the nearest consulate office. That's the only thing that might be required for the client to do that we cannot do for them, because it has to have the apostille from where they're from.
Okay. There is a specific property they looking for, or for a luxury property, or the cheap property usually.
We've had a complete varied array of requests of properties. We've had folks that bought properties like 120, 150,000 euros, and we've had clients of ours that bought properties for 9-10 million euros.
Okay.
So it just depends. There's such broad Italy. The Italian immobiliare market, the Italian real estate market has so much to offer.
So many opportunities
from a very accessible level all the way to beautiful and majestic properties,
historical properties. Now, talking about those amounts, the first question that comes to my mind is: so, do you finance commercial purchases?
No, Italian banks will only do private personal acquisitions for properties. If you are buying a property for yourself, for your family and whatnot, they do not do financing for commercial activities. Foreign commercial activities wanting to invest in Italy, that is not an option at this time, at this particular time.
So mainly residential, let's say.
Residential.
Perfect. So that's quite entirely, our R here stays for residential. So it is okay. So
we have had a client, for example, that did the purchase as a private, as a personal purchase, but once purchased, they actually had opened a company in Italy where they conflued the property into, because then they were going to use the property as Airbnb and rentals.
That was after the facts, though.
But that was after the acquisition. So they did the mortgage was actually done to the person, nominativo, namely to the one physical person.
Physical, private person.
Right, correct.
So in my past experience, whenever I had an American buyer, especially, or Canadian, they're very familiar with a HELOC, like a home equity line of credit. And we would tell them, it's easier to get a HELOC at home and then invest the funds in Italy, like, so that you can also have like more leverage when it comes to a cash purchase. However, now, obviously, if you can assist them with having an Italian mortgage, like, how would that change? Like, would it be okay for you to work on people that had purchased through a HELOC and then refinance afterwards? Or tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. We have a client right now that we're doing that actually bought a property in Tuscany and used a HELOC on his property in the U.S. So he used the HELOC to purchase the property in Tuscany. And now we are doing a mortgage for them to recuperate a portion of the funds utilized to purchase the property. Obviously, that's got to be done within 6 months of the purchase date. So within 6 months of the purchase date, if you use your own funds, we have that time frame to be able to ask for a mutuo liquidità, so a return of funds as a mortgage of the purchase price.
Okay. Any questions, Juri?
No, it's clear for me.
Okay, so I have some questions. So when it comes to the due diligence about the property, like, do you send like an appraiser? Do you send a home inspector like in USA? Or tell us a little bit more about the difference from the perspective of a North American buyer.
Well, the Italian bank is certainly going to safeguard itself on the purpose of providing a mortgage for a property purchase. So they are going to send out a surveyor, okay, to survey the property for the bank. The bank wants to make sure the property doesn't have any issues. It wants to make sure that what is shown on the floor plans of the property is actually truthful on what is in the property itself, that there isn't any issues that can cause a legal matter issue that then the bank would have to answer for because they're the ones giving the money to do a purchase. So they definitely send out a surveyor to look at all of that prior to providing the mortgage to the client.
Okay, so the due diligence is crucial. It's one of the most delicate
absolutely
into the transaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because in Italy it's very issue this pass because there is a lot of property they have the compliance.
Correct.
There's a very good chance that you run into one of those illegalities at the most, or some slight differences that you could sometimes legalize with no problem. It's just extra bureaucracy.
Yes, and that has happened to us. It has happened to some of our international clients.
Yes,
that there was a window or a small bathroom added to the property, but it wasn't on the floor plan. So a sort of abuso edilizio.
Okay,
and we caught that early, so that the seller can fix it by either bringing the property back to its original state, or by paying the fine with the comune and get it added to the mappa catastale, so on the floor plan. So either way, they were able to fix it prior to the purchase.
Yeah, the best practice is the realtor prepare before all documents or legality for a property.
Yes, so all the
best practice, not always used.
Is that?
And I get almost every time the questions like, how about title insurance, and how about the escrow and the title company? So that taps into the, we have notaries in Italy. We don't have the two attorneys involved with the real estate transaction. So how do you explain that to your clients? I know how to explain it to mine, but I'm curious to see how you bring them to understanding the two different systems, because there are two different systems.
Sure. Well, I explained very, very simply that Italy does not have the system like in the US. When you do a property purchase, we don't use title companies. In Italy, you have the figure of the notaio, which is a dual figure for that matter. One is there to do the interest of the buyer to make sure that all the property documents and everything are legal and everything is good. So he's also reviewing and making sure that there is no issues and problems. Okay, so he's doing the paperwork itself. And at the same time, the notaio is the Italian government public figure that collects the taxes from the buyer and pays it to the Italian government. So it's a one central figure that does both things. He does what the title company does in the US and collects the taxes due on the property for the Italian government combined.
When you talk about taxes, you talk about transfer taxes.
I talk about taxes on the property. When you purchase the property, the taxes you owe to the Italian government, which, by the way, in Italy, you only pay once because you do not have property taxes on a yearly basis like you have in America.
There's something slight similar to that, but obviously they are in a really smaller percentage when compared to the American taxes.
Well,
so
that also depends if the client is going to live at the property that he's buying, or they're going to use it as a vacation rental home. Then yes, you on the second option you have an IMU, which is a municipal localized tax, but compared to what they pay in America, $14,000-$15,000 a year. When you talk about 400 euros IMU, it's a tickling.
It's ridiculous taxes. Yes,
exactly. It's a fraction of it. So
it's a fraction. Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any other questions, Juri, that you have?
No, for me it's okay. I understand very well.
Gaetano, anything else you would want to add that we?
No, I would just like to
covered.
I would like to just say to our international clients that want to purchase property in Italy, the availability of the Italian banks to provide mortgages, I would just suggest, please start early. Everything takes time. Everything is very bureaucratic. And what we do is we take away all those headaches from you, the client, and we absorb those headaches for you. However, I've seen earlier and a few times already that clients went into a purchase proposal without any conditions to the mortgage, and then came to us after. and now, as you were saying, Armando, that's why some of them had to do a HELOC. In America. But with the HELOC, you have to change US dollars into euro. So now with the exchange rate, you're losing 30% buying power. So if you start early with the mortgage process in Italy, you have enough time to get that mortgage approved for your property purchase by using directly the money in euros from the Italian bank without you having to change dollars to euro.
And not to mention even the different interest rates that they would get on the mortgages.
Absolutely.
Let's touch on that. How convenient it is to get a financing in Italy versus to United States, or let's say United States for the sake of the example.
Sure. I mean, it's definitely a very big convenience. Here's one of the biggest things that people always ask me, especially at the banking institution level. When they see my clients' finances, I mentioned earlier, I had a client of mine that bought a villa in Tuscany for almost 9 million euros. Okay. His paycheck, his personal paycheck in America was $300,000 a month.
Okay.
The bank here says, well, if he's got the money, then why doesn't he just buy the house?
Exactly.
Right? So I brought up two specific points that are very important financially speaking. One was the exchange rate by US dollars to euros. The client would lose $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 in exchange rate.
Yes.
If he changes his money to the euro. And The second point, which is very important, is all the money that he has invested in America that is fruition interest rate with his investments at 10, 11, 12% interest rate, he would have to take that money away to purchase the property in Italy when he can get a mortgage here at less than 4%.
Yeah. It makes financially sense.
Financially speaking, it makes sense that he would use the money he's making in America with his investment at 12% to pay a mortgage of 4%.
4%, yeah.
So it's
la matematica non è
it's a double game, basically.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So I think we covered most of it. For whoever has any questions, just feel free to reach out to Gaetano. Obviously, being internationally connected with us at CRS Italy, you can even reach out to any of us in Italy, because we had started this cooperation with Gaetano and Alberto, which is the Italian physical presence here in Italy for us. And so I guess we this is a wrap up. Juri, do you have anything else to add?
No, I haven't.
You're happy with what we've got. Okay, then thank you, Gaetano. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Armando. Thank you, Juri. And thank you, CRS, for having me today with this interview and wonderful chat with you guys.
It was a pleasure for us. Thank you all.
Ciao. Grazie. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao.